Up next, the WHL Show with Gabe Neumann.
WHL Show. My name is Gabe Neumann, and today we are going to be doing a Week 22 recap. We are already 22 weeks into the WHL's regular season, and of course, with playoffs coming up, we've got a lot to cover. So, of course, as always, we're going to go ahead and start off with our Player of the Week and our Goaltender of the Week. We have also, the WHL has announced the Player of the Month and the Goaltender of the Month as well. And so we will be talking about those, but we're going to save that for the end just as a fun little tidbit towards the end in general news. If you tuned in last week on last week's episode, you might have noticed that we didn't have any general news to discuss. We only talked about points leaders or things like the division standings and such. But this week we do have a handful of general news to cover, and so there's going to be some stuff to cover there, as well as, like I mentioned, our goaltender and player of the month rather than just the week. But go ahead and getting us started. This week is going to be the WHL Player of the Month is Regina Pats defenseman Stanislav Svozil. He had 8 points in 3 games played with 1 goal and 7 assists. He led all WHL defensemen with 8 points, and 6 of those assists were primary assists. A little bit about him. He is from Prerov, Czechia, and he was originally selected by the Regina Pats with the 15th overall pick in the 2020 CHL import draft. Right now, he has 106 WHL games played and 113 points collected with 20 goals and 93 assists. He was drafted in the 3rd round of the 2021 NHL draft by the Columbus Blue Jackets and was signed with them, he signed with them in August of 2021. So, this past week, he had Friday, March 3rd, he had 2 assists in a 5-3 win over the Winnipeg Ice, and he was named 3rd star for that game. The next day, Saturday, March 4th, he scored twice and had 3 assists. He scored once and had 3 assists, so 4 points that game. One of those assists was actually on the game-winning goal, which was in the 6-5 overtime win against the Red Deer Rebels. He was named 1st star of that game. On Sunday, March 5th, he had 2 assists in a 5-2 loss against the Saskatoon Blades. This week he begins this week tied for the league scoring among defensemen with 72 points, 10 goals, and 62 assists, while his 37 power play points are also good for a share of the lead among WHL Blue Liners. He is currently on a 10-game point streak. He's on a 10-game point streak and has posted 22 points, 5 goals, and 17 assists in a stretch that dates back to February 11th, 2023. He and the Pats their next game is going to be tomorrow on Wednesday, March 8th against the Edmonton Oil Kings at 7 Central Time. So if you're a Pats fan, make sure you tune in to watch him play. Now, for our goaltender of the week, we have Saskatoon Blades goaltender Austin Elliott, who, if you're familiar with him, you might have seen his episode. If you haven't, feel free to check out when he was a guest on the show. A little bit about him, if you are unfamiliar. He was only selected by the Saskatoon Blades in the 12th round of the 2019 WHL draft. Right now, he has a 23-5-3-0 record, a 2.24 goals against average, a .912 save percentage, and 2 shutouts across 34 WHL games played. Right now, this past week, he posted a 2.000 record for Saskatoon. On Friday, March 3rd, he saved 25 26 shots and a 4-1 win over the Moose Jaw Warriors, and he got 1st star. On Sunday, March 5th, he had 22 saves and a 5-2 win over the Regina Pats. Now, he currently has a 7-0-1-0 record in the last 8 games, and that dates back to actually my birthday, January 28th, 2023, which is pretty cool. And right now he is 3rd in goals against average with 2.07. Austin Elliott and the Blades will be playing also tomorrow, Wednesday, March 8th, and they'll be playing against the Swift Current Broncos at 7 p.m. Central Time as well. And now for points leaders. If you watch the show, you're familiar with how we do this, but if you're just now tuning in, let me explain how we do this. I will compare the current points leaders in goals, assists, points, and also goalies, goals against average and save percentage, to the ones that are last week. So, for example, in first place, for example, in points, Connor Bedard of the Regina Pats is actually leading the league, of course, with 123 points. Last week, he was also in first with 114. And second is Zach Benson of the Winnipeg Ice with 97. Last week, Benson was also in second with 93. Goals, Connor Bedard is also in first with 59 points. Last week, he was in first with 54. Assists, also Bedard in first with 64. Last week, he had 60. And then actually our player of the week is who is in second, Stanislaus Fosel. So he of the Regina Pats. So he has 62 assists this week. And last week it was Zach Benson of the Winnipeg Ice with 59. Goals against average are so shifting focus to our goaltenders. Goals against average. First place this week is Scott Ratzlaff of the Seattle Thunderbirds with a 2.00 goals against average. And then last week it was also Ratzlaff with a 2.03 GAA. So he has stayed in first. Our second place is actually going to be his goalie partner, Thomas Milic of the Seattle Thunderbirds with a 2.06. And then last week, it was Austin Elliott of the Saskatoon Blades with a 2.11. Save percentages, it's another. So last week, we've been talking about for save percentage, the leader for save percentage with a .925 for the past 2 or 3 weeks now has been Connor Unger of the Moose Jaw Warriors. And he's been staying in that specific spot because that number that was so high, he hasn't been playing. And so that he was still in number one with the same numbers for a few weeks in a row. And so this week he actually went down to second place with this. He still has the .925, but in first place is Thomas Milic of the Seattle Thunderbirds with a .927 save percentage. And so Connor Unger is now in second. Last week it was Unger in first. This week it's Milic. Last week Milic was in second with a .924. And he's obviously jumped up to first. So Connor Unger is still sitting in second with a .925. If he comes back or if other goalies take over that save percentage average, this will be the place to go. We'll keep you guys updated for sure. Now for standings, this one we just go. It's pretty much self-explanatory. We go over the current standings, and I do it in division, then conference, then overall. And so last week, 9 teams that clinched playoffs. This week, we have a 10th team join those. So we have the teams that have clinched playoffs so far are the Winnipeg Ice, the Saskatoon Blades, the Red Deer Rebels, the Seattle Thunderbirds, the Portland Winterhawks, Everett Silvertips, Tri-City Americans, Kamloops Blazers, and the Prince George Cougars. The 10th team to join that list is actually going to be the Vancouver Giants. So they have clinched playoffs and are going to be going to see the playoffs this year. So that's great. East Division leaders are the same as last week. So first place for the East Division is Winnipeg, second place Saskatoon, third place Moose Jaw. The Central Division is also the same. Red Deer in first, Lethbridge in second, Medicine Hat in third. The U.S. is actually the same, and it's interesting because third place was kind of interesting. So first is Seattle, second is Portland, and third is Everett. And this is the same as last week. Everett and Tri-City are tied at the moment, but because Everett's played one game fewer, they are the one that's in the higher spot. So they are in third, and last week it was the exact same. Now in the BC division, it's the same as last week, of course, with Kamloops in first, Prince George in second, and then Vancouver in third. For conferences, it all remains the same. So pretty much nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Last week, for the Eastern Conference, it was Winnipeg, then Red Deer, then Saskatoon. This week, it is the exact same. Now, for the Western Conference, same thing there. Same as last week, with Seattle in first, Kamloops in second, and Portland in third. Overall, we have Winnipeg in first, Red Deer in second, and Seattle in third. And that was the same as last week as well. Now, our CHL Top 10 is always a lot of fun because they look at the whole league as a whole, not just the whole Canadian Hockey League rather than just the WHL. But of course, this being the WHL show, we just talk about the WHL teams. So 4 of the WHL teams this week were 4 of the spots. So this week, 4 of the spots in the CHL Top 10 were given to WHL teams. So in first place, we have the Seattle Thunderbirds with a 48-9-1-1 record this season. Third place is the Winnipeg Ice with a 49-9-1-0 record. Eighth place is the Kamloops Blazers with a 40-11-4-2 record. And then in this 10th spot is actually the Saskatoon Blades with a 42-13-4-1 record. So normally, if you guys pay attention to the CHL top 10 rankings each week, or if you tune into the show and get a good idea of what those are, they usually, it's been pretty consistent. The Winnipeg Ice have been in first and prevailing the champions for a long time running. And so, of course, them going down to third is a big thing. And the Seattle Thunderbirds jumping up into first, big deal. So for the Thunderbirds are in first for the first time since week 13. And just for context, it is week 22 now, as I've mentioned earlier. So it's been a long time. So now they are sitting atop of the CHL top 10 rankings. They right now have a win streak of 13 games, and they had a perfect 3-3 week. On Friday, they won 4-1 in Tri-City. Saturday, they had a 5-0 win against the Everett Silvertips. A couple notable names for that game: Thomas Milic with his shutout, Nico Majatovic, and then Reed Schaefer, each scoring twice as well. And then on Sunday, they had a 4-2 victory, and that was over the Tri-City Americans. That win actually gave Seattle their 48th win of the season, and they have the second most wins in the CHL. And that's not just WHL, second most wins in the CHL, which is amazing. Now, for the Winnipeg Ice, they have actually dropped out of the top two for the first time since week 10. So they have been in the top two spot, either first or second, since week 10, but until now, so week 22. So 12 weeks straight, or 11 weeks straight, I guess. Yeah, so they actually had a couple losses. They fell 6-4 against the Medicine Hat Tigers on Friday, and they had originally a 3-0 win against the Regina Pats, but then Connor Bedard kind of said no, and so they ended up losing that game. And then they did conclude their 10-game road trip with an 8-3 win over the Brandon Wheat Kings, and that was on Saturday. Connor Geekie actually had a hat trick that game. And Winnipeg's 49 wins are the most in the CHL this season so far. So, with the Thunderbirds with their 48 being second, Winnipeg Ice are in first with the 49, and that's in the whole Canadian Hockey League, not just the WHL again. So again, pretty big. That's pretty awesome. Now for our eighth, the team that was in the 8th spot, it's going to be the Kamloops Blazers. So they swept a home with Kelowna. Friday, it was an 8-1 home win. Notable name for that would be Connor Levis, who had a 4-point game. It was an 8-1 again, 8 points or 8 goals scored that game. He had 1 goal and 3 assists in that game. Saturday, they had a 7-2 victory, and they became the 4th WHL club to 40 wins. And notable name for that game would be Olin Zellweger with 2 goals scored that game, 2 of the 4 goals. Now for our Saskatoon Blades, who come in at the last spot with number 10, they have been honorable mentions pretty often, but they haven't really kind of come up in the rankings recently, but they've made it again this week. They had a 6-point week, and their streak has improved to 9-1. Wednesday, they beat the Rebels 5-2. Brandon Lazowski and Igor Sidorov both scored twice in that game. On Friday, they had a 4-1 win over the Moose Jaw Warriors. Sidorov had 2 goals in that game as well. Austin Elliott, as we mentioned earlier, had 25 saves. Sunday, they had a 5-2 win against the Regina Pats. Trevor Wong had a hat trick that game, and they also had another 2-goal game for Sidorov. So Sidorov is just scoring a lot. So that's awesome. Right now, the Blades are currently at 42 wins, and they have the 3rd most in the WHL. So not directly below the Thunderbirds in the WHL, in the CHL, but in the WHL. CW. In the WHL, they are in 3rd for the amount of wins. Now, for our general news, we have a bunch of stuff, as I mentioned earlier, with various things going on around the league and such. So, our first thing that we're going to be talking about, we have 2 division champions so far that we've confirmed for the US division and the BC division. For the US division, the Seattle Thunderbirds have locked up the US division title. So they are US division champs. They have won the title for the first time in 7 years. They have right now 10 NHL prospects, 5 of whom were selected in the first round of their respective NHL drafts, including midseason additions Nolan Allen, Dylan Guenther, and Brad Lambert. Following Saturday's game, Seattle did hold the best record in the Western Conference at a 47-9-1-1. They had 3 points off of the league leading Winnipeg Ice. So they were really close. Goaltender, of course, Scott's. I was trying to say Thomas, and I said Scott. Goaltenders, of course, being Thomas Milic and Scott Ratzlaff, absolutely amazing and incredible. Them both having won goaltender of the week last week, and also just being known as really good goalies and a really great goalie tandem. So they have definitely been a big part of why the Thunderbirds are such a strong team. Definitely a good components of that. Right now, they are actually both ranked for NHL Central Scouting ahead of the 2023 NHL Draft. They have locked things down defensively as well. They have 9 shutouts at this point, combining for 9 shutouts in the 2022-23 season. And actually, fun fact here that was on the WHL website, no WHL club has allowed fewer than 127 goals surrendered by the Thunderbirds this year. So, in simpler terms, I think, to interpret that in as if I was talking to a child, because sometimes that's how my brain works, I think that's saying that the Thunderbirds have scored at least 127 times against each team, which is insane. That's a lot of goals scored. So like this, and I'm pretty sure that's this season too. So yeah, there's a lot of goals. So Seattle are now the US Division Championship. They've won that series title. The last time they won this was actually in 2016. And so yeah, it's been a minute, and now they finally regained that spot, and that's really awesome. For our BC Division champs, Kamloops Blazers were the ones that actually nailed that down. They are going to be the Memorial, the 2023 Memorial Cup, presented by Kia. They're the hosts for that this season, and so they are they secured their division championship on, I think it was Saturday. And so they have a 39-11-4-2 record at the moment, and they have 9 NHL prospects, including reigning WHL Player of the Year Logan Stankoven. They have also led they've led the division for most of the year. So entering Saturday's game, the Kamloops Blazers 88 goal or plus 88 goal differential was third among the WHL, and Stankoven's 86 points was fourth among WHL skaters. Okay, so after goaltender Dylan Garand left, 2023 NHL prospect Dylan Ernst has taken over the pipes, the starting position for goaltender and for the Blazers. He right now is leading the league with 33 wins and is currently ranked by NHL Central Scouting ahead of the June draft in Nashville. Last year, the Kamloops Blazers did reach the Eastern Conference Championship in 2022. Stankoven led all WHL playoffs performers with 17 goals and 31 points last playoffs run last season. So both either the Blazers or the Seattle Thunderbirds will be starting off against the 7th or the 8th seed in the Western Conference. So whoever prevails first. So if the Thunderbirds are Western Conference champion, or like the top of the Western Conference, they are going to be against the 8th seed. And then if the Blazers are in second, they'll be against the 7th, and vice versa. So if the Blazers are in first, they'll be against the 8th. Thunderbirds against the 7th. You get it. Yeah, fun times. Playoffs and how they work are a little confusing in my brain, and I honestly am not entirely sure what determines clinching playoffs, or how that's determined, or how people decide what they need. So if you know how that works, or if you're an expert on the subject, please feel free to reach out to me and educate me, because I would love to hear about it, because I'm not entirely sure how it all works. And so yeah, that'd be a lot of fun to talk about and to discuss, and so that'd be really cool. Another thing, the next thing into our general news is that we had a bunch of players actually sign NHL contracts this past week. So the first one was actually this is not in chronological order. I know that it went. I think I might be going backwards actually, but in the first one that I'm talking about today, it's going to be Red Deer Rebels defenseman Christopher Setoff. I can read, I promise. He signed with the Vegas Golden Knights, and it was announced on Thursday. He right now has 40. He's from Finland. A little bit about him. He is from Finland and has compiled 45 points, 4 goals, and 41 assists in 53 games with the Red Deer Rebels during this season, the 2022-2023 WHL season. And he leads all of the Rebels blue liners in scoring. He was also named to the Central Division first All-Star team in 2022 after posting a 61-point campaign. And then going back even further, he was selected by Red Deer in the first round of the 2019 CHL import draft. And over the course of 179 games played, he has 125 points. And especially, that's already impressive. But then taking into consideration that he is a defenseman makes it even better. So that's awesome. Great to him. Definitely a reason that he got signed for sure. And yeah, cannot wait to see what he does there. And now our next one is actually going to be from the Cougars. So Prince George Cougars forward Jackson Weeb signed with the Anaheim Ducks. That was also announced on Thursday, so the same day. He is from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. He had 14 goals and 21 assists during the 2022-23 WHL season, and 27 of those have come since joining the Cougars via trade from the Edmonton Oil Kings in November, I think. Yeah, in late November. The 20-year-old was a member of the Edmonton 2022 WHL Championship squad. He was on that team last season, obviously joining the Cougars this season in November. And he had a hat trick actually last season against the host of the Sea Dogs in the Memorial Cup. Yeah, fun times. So he was originally selected by the Red Deer Rebels in the 7th round of the 2017 WHL draft. And right now he has 95 points, or as of Thursday, I guess, he has 95 points in 171 regular seasons played. And that includes or regular season and playoff games. So that includes regular season playoff games with Red Deer, Edmonton, and Prince George. So congrats to him. Now on to the Blazers. It'll be Kamloops Blazers forward Caden Bankier, he did. He signed a 3-year entry-level contract with the NHL's Minnesota Wild. So great moves for him. He actually is from White Rock, BC. He sits right now 4th in scoring on the Blazers this season. He has 62 points, 30 goals, and 32 assists. He has, through only 44 games, he has already set career highs in goals, 30, and points, 62, eclipsing his previous mark set last season during the 2021 and 2022 season. Right now, his 30 goals are good for second in the club, so second in the Kamloops Blazers, trailing right behind Ryan Hofer, who also signed with another team, which we'll talk about in a second. So Bankier was originally selected by the Minnesota Wild in the 2021 NHL draft, and that was 86th overall in the 3rd round. He's definitely served as a reliable two-way forward and also represented his country at the 2023 World Junior Championship and he was part of the gold medal team for that. And in those games, he had 7 games played and produced 1 assist and logged a rating of +3. Now, he was originally selected by the Blazers in the 3rd round, 49th overall of the 2018 WHL draft, and with as of last week, which was, I want to say Wednesday. Yeah, as of Wednesday last week, he has 189 games played in the WHL and has 165 points with 69 goals and 96. That's funny. 6996. It's switched. 96 assists and then a plus 50 rating. He has also added another 11 points in 17 playoff games. Of course, as I mentioned a second ago, with forward Ryan Hofer signing with the Washington Capitals, that was announced actually one of the first signings that was announced. He signed with the Washington Capitals. He has 36 goals this season, 13 of which have come since being acquired by the Blazers from the Everett Silvertips in early January before the whole chaos of the trade deadline was. That was, I think it was January 8th. So it was the beginning of the 2023 year. He was actually selected last year in the 2022 NHL draft by, and it was in the 6th round by the Washington Capitals. And over his career, as of last week, over his career, he's had 125 points, 67 goals, and 58 assists over 148 games played in the WHL, and that's split between the Silvertips and the Blazers. Obviously, he was selected and signed by Everett, or he was signed at least by Everett, the Everett Silvertips, in May of 2020. And now we're at the big moment, the player of the month and goaltender of the month. Last month, I actually totally messed these up, and I read off December's player of the month and goaltender of the month, and then didn't realize until the week after. So then I corrected it, but this week I did not do that. This month, I've 100% got February's player and goalie of the month. So we're good. We're on it. It's great. So the player of the month was Chase Wheatcroft of the Prince George Cougars. A little bit about him. He was originally signed by the Lethbridge Hurricanes in 2018 and was acquired by the Prince George Cougars from the Winnipeg Ice in June of 2022. Now for our goalie of the month, it's actually going to be Thomas Milic of the Seattle Thunderbirds. He got the goaltender of the month for February. He and running mate Scott Ratzlaff were named WHL Goaltenders of the Week for the week ending February 26, 2023. He was originally selected by the Thunderbirds in the 3rd round of the 2018 WHL draft. And yeah, so that's that. Yep, so that about does it. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. That's all we got for today. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching, and hope you guys have the best day of your week. Or the best week of your lives. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, make sure that you check out my Twitter if you want to stay up to date with WHL content. I have a really great piece coming out tomorrow with the Area 51 team. Definitely excited for you guys to read that. It's going to be awesome. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you check my Twitter out if you want to talk WHL or just hockey or goalies in general, because I am your guy. I got you. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you tune in next week and have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.